Winning begins at home. It's a great statement. We made it last week. We kind of introduced this topic as we did podcast last week. We've been talking about chasing greatness for several months. And then last week, I told you the story about how we survived the black bears on our beach vacation. Kind of crazy. If you didn't listen to it, I encourage you to go back and hear some of the stuff that we did on our personal reset when we went to our beach week last couple of weeks ago. And now here we are jumping into the month of August. It's kind of crazy to believe, but here we are going into August, and I just looked at some different areas of my life, and I wanted to talk to you about it because I think they're very important. They will help you ultimately win at home. We say all the time, if you win at work and you lose at home, you still lose. Some of you right now are struggling at home. You need some help, and I hope this episode is going to really help you as you feel some of the pull of negativity, or there's maybe some relationships that have strain, maybe some of your own personal discipline, those kind of things. This episode is going to help you get on that road. And in the next couple of weeks, we're going to follow up today's episode with some stuff on your relationships and your habits and even your work. We'll talk about that a little bit. So welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us this week. Thank you for all that you're doing to help us spread the word. It's so cool to see all the people that are listening and liking and leaving comments for us. We love the new subscribers we have on YouTube. That's been kind of fun to watch that grow. And it's just really an opportunity for us to invest in you and your own leadership, your own personal and professional growth. And so that's our heart. That's really what we're trying to do. So again, welcome everybody. If you know somebody who needs to hear some of the things we're going to talk about today, and I'm guessing you're going to just right away be able to think of somebody who could benefit from this, push this out to them. Help us continue to share the word. You really do help us. But today I want to ask you, if you would, not to be thinking about your boss or your spouse or somebody else. I want to ask you to look in the mirror today and ask yourself some tough questions as we think about this idea of values today. We're going to talk a little bit about core values. I'm around people all the time, and it is incredible to me how many people, when I start asking what their core values are, they just kind of start, they say, well, maybe this or maybe that, and they really don't have locked in what their core values are. So the word core is very key. It's an important word. It is the essence of who we are. And as we think about values today, I mentioned this last week, but these values are what I'm going to call behavioral values. I believe that your values should drive your behavior when you think about it, but they don't always. I mean, they do always, but they don't always. Let me explain what I mean. So I think our values, what we really do value, does drive our behavior. I think a lot of times we fool ourselves by writing down some values, saying these are important to us, and then we don't live like they're true. So it's important to have values, but then you have to live like they're true. And I would even encourage you to go public with your values. I'll say something about that at the end here today. But I want to jump into some of these core values that I have set for myself this year, and I'm just going to ask you to think through what are your core values. I think I'll give you some examples here, and then I hope they'll be able to help you do a little resetting of your own life and help you get more on track with where you want to be. I mentioned this last week when we were at the beach. We get out in the ocean and there's an undertow going on that you don't see. And it's just a good reminder to me that, you're just a little off the shore line. Maybe you're, 50 yards out, let's say, and you're out there swimming and you're kind of having fun. You got your buddies, your family, whoever with you. And maybe you're staying in a condo on the beach. We had a house a mile off the beach over in Bear City. Again, that was kind of wild, but let's say you're in a condo on the beach, and all of a sudden you look up, you start just right outside where your condo is down. You got your towel and you sand buckets, all that stuff. And you go out in the water and you're swimming a little bit or just kind of fighting the waves, whatever. And next thing you know, you look up and all of a sudden you're not in front of your condo. You're maybe an extra condo down, or you're headed toward the pier. And there's this undertow going on that we can't often see. And I think that is a really good picture of what's going on in our lives right now. As you think about it, there's this constant pulling from the culture that is sending messages to us, right? So one of the messages that you may hear often is that your identity is tied up in how many people like you on social media, or how many people watch your stuff or share your videos or whatever. We have these identity things, and we forget what really gives us identity, what makes us important. It has nothing to do with what other people think about you. It is true that a good name is more important than great riches. That's true. You should have integrity behind your name, but you really shouldn't really give a rip what everybody else thinks about you on social media. There's so much there that is negative and just poison. It's ugly. There's some good things there, but if you've lost sight of the fact that you are important, there is greatness in you, whether anybody else taps your little heart on the Instagram or whatever it is you're putting out. Man, you just lose sight, and all of a sudden it just begins to pull you down from where you're supposed to be, and now you're thinking differently. You lose sight of who you really are. Performance is another one. Sometimes we think that we're important because we perform, and we can lose sight of that. We should do our best. We should perform at a high level. We should live up to our potential. But ultimately, that's not what makes you important. What makes you important is you're a human being. You are important, and we have loneliness that kind of pulls us away sometimes. There's so many people I'm talking to right now. They're isolated, and they've been pulled by the culture. Materialism is another one. We start looking at what other people have, and we think if we had that, it would make us happy. And what we don't realize is they're not really happy either. They're just searching for something. And there's an old saying that the eye is never satisfied, and that's so true. You get one shiny something, and the next thing you know, it's just been upgraded and something else is available, and that's not going to make you happy. And so many times we fail to recognize there's this pull going on, this undertow going on. And I think if we will just be aware of that, that can be helpful to us. So how do we prevent ourselves from being pulled by the culture? And I think the really your magic bullet here, your secret weapon, is your values. If you will have values in place that drive your life, they really do drive your behavior. All of a sudden, you are going to be on solid ground. I say solid ground. You're still out in the water, and the culture is still going to pull against you. But you are. I use the word tethered. You are tethered to the floor of the ocean, if you want to think of it that way. And it's almost. We've used this analogy before months ago when we talked about just circumstances in our lives. It's like a buoy on the water. You see those buoys, but they don't. The buoy is tethered to something. It doesn't float down the coast. I mean, the buoy is there, and it's to remind the boats like you need to slow down here. This is a protected area, or a place where there's going to be a lot of people around. So I think that's just a good picture for me, just to remember that my values are going to keep me tethered to something. They're going to keep things around me more calm and away from those stormy waters. So before I share my values with you that I've had for this year, I want to answer another question a lot of people have. How many values should I have? I mean, when I'm thinking about core values, how many should I have? And I've known people, they'll list out 10 values that they want to drive their life. And that's great. I mean, there's nothing wrong with making a big list. There's a lot of things that you'd say, I want this to be true about me and this to be true about me. That's fantastic. But I think when you're focusing on your core values, I like to use the word core as a reminder also of, you think about the core of your body, or if you think about a person's abs in their body, they say we have maybe an 8-pack, or maybe there's even more muscles than that there. But we hear the term 6-pack all the time. It's just a good picture of like there's 6 muscles that on a really person who doesn't eat very much and they do what they're supposed to for exercise. They manage their nutrition really well. They can get cut, and you can see literally a 6-pack, those abs. That's kind of the dream of everybody. That won't make you more important if you have that, by the way. That won't even necessarily make you more healthy if those show. But I think it's a good that's a good number. Somewhere between 4 and 6 values to drive your behavior, I think is really good. I think it ought to be closer to maybe 3 or 5 than 10. I think when you start getting up to 10 things, you're trying to remember to do this and do that. It just becomes cumbersome at that point. And so let's think today about narrowing down our focus to maybe 3 to 5 values that you would say you want to drive your life. So for me, at the beginning of the year, there were some things that I just said, I want My goal at the beginning of the year was to have the best year I've ever had. I had a friend challenge me, what would we have to do to have the best year we've ever had? It actually led me to creating a course, 21 Days to Your Best Year Ever. We've had that course, a lot of people using that around the country and around the world. And if you've not picked that up, we'll put a link at the end here. If you've not used our 21 Days course, I think it'd be something great, give you a framework to organize your life and your leadership. If you don't have that, just a real nice little blueprint to help you think through some stuff. Very cool there. But for me, I said, okay, what would I have to do? And I had some core values, but I wanted to say, okay, what are some things I really want to push hard on this year and make sure these things are true? If nothing else is true, these are the 5 things that I say I want to come back and these things to be true. Now, these things won't be they won't be things that you necessarily say you want to be true about your life. Maybe they will be. That's great. You're welcome to steal the values, use your own, whatever. These are probably stolen. I probably have heard these things, or thought about these things in different ways as I've listened to other people through the years. But I started with these 5 ideas, 5 words, and I said, I want to make sure that I'm doing these 5 things. And then I attached a word to them to help me kind of take it to the next level or to define it a little more. I'll share with you what I mean here. So the 5 words were: I want to pray, I want to love, I want to grow, I want to think, and I want to live. And, you're like, well, everybody's like, well, of course you want to live, but I'll explain in just a second. So as I started thinking about these behaviors, a lot of these are things that I would say have been true about me for a long time. They've been important to me for a long time, but I took the second word and I said, I want to try to take these to the next level. And I think this will help you as you think about what are your values and how do you want to live them out. So let me give you these 5. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on my values, but I think it'll be helpful to hear this. And so the first one is, I said, I want to pray continually. I know there's going to be things that I am up against that are way bigger than me. I read the old quote. Probably should have looked this up before I say it here, but there's an old quote. You can look this up. An old quote by Abraham Lincoln, who said, I've been so overwhelmed by the needs of the day that I'm driven continually to my knees. Something about he just had to keep praying, basically. And I've got a buddy of mine, and when we're in stuff, a lot of times I'll just remind him we need to pray more than we do. And this was just my way of saying I need to pray more. And when I say more, I wanted to give not how many times a day. I just said I just need to pray all the time. Because personally, I believe there's a God. I know I'm not him, and I need his help. And so I just want to keep praying and asking him to help me no matter what's going on. I think so many times I get in trouble when I try to make decisions on my own or try not to give any thought to what would God say, or even what would the people around me. You may not be what you would call a God follower, but maybe you have some wise counsel around you, some people you would lean into, and maybe you even need to seek advice from them. So as you think about your values, you can word it any way you want to. The second one was I want to love abundantly. I don't want to just love. Love is great. I mean, I want to. And when I talk about that, and when I talk about winning at home, I think it's important to love all the people that you live with. But when I say abundantly, was my reminder of I need to take this to the next level. I don't need to do the minimum required, occasionally do this, or sometimes I do that, or I'm pretty good at, I wanted to say, what would it mean to, my statement again, I asked this last week, how would I have to live in such a way that the people who know me the best love me the most, but also the people who know me the best feel the most love from me. And so that love abundantly for me, that's a value that I want to drive my behaviors. Here's the third one: to grow consistently. This year, I thought if I'm going to really try to help more people, I need to get better and better and better. And lifelong learning has been a lifelong pursuit for me. I say lifelong, probably I got a little more serious about it when I got about 20 years old. I don't know that I learned as much as I should have when I was growing up, and when I was in college, but it became very evident as I got into my 20s. Like I've got to know more. My friend Mark Miller always says your capacity to grow determines your capacity to lead. And I think that's so true. It's the more we grow, the more we're able to help other people and have influence and have impact, have a great career, whatever it is you're trying to do. And so for me, I was on a grow, but I didn't want to grow sporadically. I wanted to grow consistently. I wanted to every day say, what am I doing to get better today? Think creatively was one of mine. I'm trying to set aside more time to think And when I do that, I want to think creatively. I want to think outside the box. I want to try to think of things from some different angles. And so if I'm studying one topic, I may actually read something on another topic, or pull out a white pad or a legal pad and make a list of options. And then when I get an option, I may say, well, what would be 4 options off that? And I'm just trying to think creatively, like think differently. And then live courageously was what I said. I don't want to just live. I don't want to just be alive at the end of the year. I do want to be alive at the end of the year, but during the year, I want to make sure that I'm living with courage. I don't want to live comfortably. I don't want to. I always remind leaders that the best leaders are not comfortable being comfortable. I think a lot of us are like, if I could just get it this way, it'd be real comfortable, it'd be nice. And you know as well as I do that when you get to a place where everything's kind of comfortable, it's great. There's nothing wrong with vacation. That was fantastic last week. We're pretty comfortable, but ultimately the best leaders are comfortable when they're being courageous. We're reminded over and over again in the Bible to be courageous, be courageous, be courageous. Again, you may not be a Bible reader, or you may not believe the Bible or whatever, but if you do read the Bible, you won't find the verse that says be comfortable. It's just not in there. It's like we were almost ordained by God to be courageous, and when I say courageous in this context, it wasn't that I wanted to jump out of an airplane this year or go bungee jumping or really do any jumping at all. I mean, I'm not, I'm past the jumping at this point. But courage for me is being willing to have a hard conversation with somebody, or hold somebody accountable, or admit, hey, I messed that up. Seeking feedback from somebody. So courage comes in all kind of forms. And so for me, I wanted to just say, I wanted to make sure that I am being courageous. Am I willing to start something? Am I willing to stop something? All kind of questions that could go around that, and that helped me think about it. But those were my 5 values. I'm thinking about those 5 values. And so I think this will help you now as you think about what your values are. One of the things that I feel like I have not done so well, I told you it was kind of halftime, a few weeks ago, and we said, let's reset, let's review the first half of the year, let's reset, and let's go into the back half of the year. And one of the things as I was looking back through my plan and working through these values was I had written a statement at the end of those when I wrote them at the beginning of the year, was that I wanted to review those values every single day. And I'm just going to have to admit to you, there have been a bunch of days this first 6 months where I assumed, well, I had the values memorized. I know what they are. I don't need to review them today, or I didn't take the time to review them like I had intended to do. And intentions are great, but they're not going to get you where you want to go. It's got to have action behind it. And so for me, one of the things I need to do to reset right now with my values is I need to go back and say, okay, every single day I need to be reviewing these values. And I don't know about you, but I know for a fact when I look at them every day, I do better at living them out. And so here's what I want to do. I want to give you a little bit of homework here as we wrap this episode up. Just a few more minutes here, but I think there's a couple things that you could do that would be really helpful for you. So the first one, here's your homework. I want to challenge you to pick an hour between now and next week's episode and say, I'm gonna set aside an hour, and you get 2 things. You get to bring your pen with you, and you get to bring whatever it is you want to write in. But I would encourage you, don't bring an electronic device. Bring some paper. I mean, they still make paper. You can find some. You've got a notebook. Go get a moleskin, whatever. Find you something to write on paper, and then I want you to take that hour and say, I'm going to write 3 to 7. I'll give you as many as 7, but about 5 basically core things that you say. Here are things that I want to be doing every day. I want these behaviors to be a part of my life, not your habits. We'll talk about habits in a couple of weeks, but I want you to write those down. And then is there a way that you could link them to a way you want to do those? So like grow consistently. It's not just grow sporadically, but I want to grow consistently. You could say I want to grow sporadically. You get to choose, but to the idea of like, what are these 5 values, these 4 values you'd say, or if there's only 3 things that I'm going to do every day, these would be the 3 things not even the things I do, but the behaviors that will drive who I become. If you want to think of it that way, to kind of take it to the next level. So that's homework piece number one. Take an hour, see if you can identify those values, and if you do, I'd love it if you would either you can send us an email, or you can comment here. You can, if you have values laid out, anything that you want to interact with us on this, leave them in the comments. We love that when we hear from you. But what are those 4 to 6 things? And let's give it a timeline here. Let's say August, September, October, maybe till Thanksgiving. These next 3 to 4 months. These are the 3 to 5 things that I want to be true every single day. We'll debate whether those ought to be something that you carry out forever. There's some of mine on my list that are core values. They need to be true all the time, forever. But this year, one of the ones I added was to think creatively, because I feel like I need to be thinking more than I was before. I mean, it's like, who spends time pulling out a legal pad, looking out a window, taking an hour just to think? And it's such a good skill. So I thought I need to be reminded of that. And I needed to elevate it to my core value list for this year. It doesn't mean that these other values aren't just as important this year to, renew in some way. But for that one, I thought it never had been on my list before. And so I thought I need to pull that in here to these other 4 values that are pretty much important to me all the time. Your core values probably won't, this will help you know whether you have it right or not. Your core values probably won't change over time. But again, like that one, you may say, there's an area where I'm kind of struggling right now. I'm not sure it ought to be a core value, but I'm pulling it into my behavioral values, I'm calling it, this year. So I pulled it in, and it's been very helpful just to be reminded of that and think about it. So that's number one. What are your next 90 days? I need you to write down 3 to 5 things that you say, these are going to be things that are going to drive my behavior. And then here's homework number 2. If you want to go next level, I think it's very practical, but set yourself an alarm every single day in the morning pick a time, 6 a.m., 8 a.m., 9:32 a.m. You pick, I don't care. But, and I want you to have a 3-minute meeting. This is literally 3 minutes. Take these 3 to 5 values. I've got 5, write them down, put them on your phone, put them on your screensaver, whatever. When that alarm goes off, you open that up and you set your mind for the day and say, these 5 things are going to guide me. And so here, my meeting would be something like this. Today, I want to make sure that if I run into something that I'm not sure what to do, I probably need to at least pray. Like what do you think I ought to do, God? Or maybe I need to ask some wise counsel. I need to pick up the phone and call somebody who could help me make a decision. So for you, I don't know what your value will be, but you'll have a way to kind of think about that. Who can I love today? And what would abundant love look like today? Like it's one thing to let's just say I'm going to empty the dishwasher for my wife today. It's one thing to empty the dishwasher, but it's another thing to want to empty the dishwasher and to do it with the right heart. And so loving abundantly, it doesn't have to be hard, but it does need to be intentional, and it does need to be with the right heart. Grow consistently. What do I need to do today to get better than I was yesterday? Is there an area I want to grow? Think about it. So again, I'm in this little 3-minute meeting with myself, and I've already, I'm a minute and a half in, I've already asked 3 of those. When do I need to think today? What do I need to think about today? And maybe I may make my list of, or make myself a list of a couple of things. I need to spend a little time thinking on Friday about these 2 things, or think for an hour on Saturday about something. You get to choose if you were doing thinking. And then what would courage look like today? Is there a place today where courage is going to be required? And so again, 3 minutes. If you want to go next level, set yourself a second alarm in the evening for 5 minutes this time. And what I want to do in that one is I just want to spend 1 minute on each one of those values for me, and just go back and say, okay, how did I do with this? How did I do with living this out? And I don't tell you this kind of stuff very often, but I'll say this: those 8 minutes could be life-changing for you to literally set your course every day for 3 minutes with 4 to 5 values. Just say, these are the things I want to be about today. And I get to the end of the day and say, how did I do today on the things that I intended to do, and what adjustments do I need to make tomorrow? Just having that level of 8 minutes of focus could literally change the rest of your day, could change your life. And so I want to challenge you to take this seriously. Here's what's going to happen. The storms are going to come. The waves are going to, they're going to get rough at times. I told you last week, there were a couple days where everything's calm, not, little yellow flag, green flag, everybody go have fun, splash around. On the last couple days though, storm front comes in and the red flags go up and the purple one's up as well. Watch out for the jellyfish, watch out for the waves. It's going to be bad. The undertow is swim at your own risk. You face your own peril if you go at this on your own. And I think that's just a great picture for life. If we're not careful, we just kind of wing it. We go at it on our own. And we don't have values that we're tied to, that we're really making sure are driving our lives. We're just going to go with the flow. And the next thing you know, we're miles away from where we intend to be. And we can't even drown. We really can. Some of you right now, you are really hurting because you've not been true to who you are. And so I just want to challenge you. Make sure you go back and you are crystal clear on who you want to be. And then you live like those things are true. So I said at the beginning, I would sort of share one final challenge here on, living those things out. So I think really the best picture of the values for a person in maybe not for values, but the best picture of living something out like what we're talking about is when a person shares that I'm going to be held to this standard. So we had a couple of our daughters when they were in high school and even when I'm in college, they were on their soccer teams. And one of them was the captain of her team, and we go watch her play. And if you've been to a soccer game, this happens in other sports as well. They'll have a C on their chest with on the jersey for the captains. In football, you'll see that sometimes. But in soccer, they wear an armband. And the Olympics are going on right now, and all the soccer is going on. And you'll notice the captain always has an armband, and it's their way of saying, I'm going to be held to a different standard. I'm going to be held to a higher standard. And so here's my final challenge for you as you're committing to going, I'm going to get me some values. I'm going to make sure that I'm tied to those. I don't have to be pulled around, by every wind that blows and every front that comes in, every circumstance that changes. These values can hold me. I'm going to spend my 3 minutes in the morning. I'm going to calibrate my life on those. And in the evening, I'm going to make sure I review and reset for the next day. How did I do? But here's the other one. Find you one person and share, put your armband on and say, let me share with you something that's going on with me right now. I'm trying to live out these values. Just saying it out loud and having somebody else to know, man, this is what she's trying to do, or this is what he's trying to do. They can cheer for you. They can hold you accountable. They can get in your face if you don't do what you said you want to do. You can be as aggressive with that as you want to be. But I encourage you to find somebody and just go, I'm putting my armband on. I need you to go. No, I'm going public with this. This is really what I want to be about. You have some people around you who really do love you. They really want to help you. It might be a teacher or a coach. School's going back. Some of you going back to school. You may need to share some of those with your coach or your teacher, maybe one of your leaders at school. Maybe it's even with a family member. Maybe if you're a kid, you might even want to talk to one of your parents. Or maybe if you don't have parents around, right now in your life, maybe it's a friend or a coworker. I don't know. You got somebody that you can go public with these values. And when you do, you begin to live like they're true. I'm telling you, this can be transformational for your life. So that's it for this week. You might even say to them, hey, I want you to listen to this episode and I want to challenge you to do the same thing. Let's do this together. It could be really great. So help us share this content out there with somebody. It'd be fantastic. All right. Remember, we're chasing greatness. But we can never really be great if we don't win at home. It's great to win at work, but if you don't win at home, you really don't win. And so let's make sure that what's going on from 9 to 5, love that. That's important. But from 5 to 9, your life doesn't go on hold at that point. That really is where you position yourself to have maximum influence and impact. So keep chasing greatness. Keep remembering that you got to win at home first. Winning really does begin at home. All right, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.